Many times, ladies and gentlemen, I always talk to you and preach to you about our children's safety in public schools. The safety of our children isn't a priority at all, especially in areas where our numbers are so low, it's ridiculous. So we have a school in East Bernard, Texas, in the East Bernard Independent School District. Well, on Monday, December the 6th, they was talking about having a, party bus. And in this chat, they were saying that they didn't want any, black people there. Now, I want you to look at the clip. And this young lady in our community, I say she's fearful to go back to school. She's worried. But let's roll this clip and then let's come behind it and talk about it.
I couldn't believe it. My stomach dropped.
It's a social media group chat among white students at East Bernard High School that has parents like Tiffany Seidler disgusted and fearing for her daughter's life. The messages are racist and vile. We blurred the names of the students involved as well as the language used.
So I was at the lunch table and my friend showed me she was in the group chat and seen everything going on.
And 16-year-old Tyra says it was Monday when 5 to 6 white students were discussing a party bus for their February 5th prom. One student responded to the thread saying no black people were allowed. Another student responding, amen. Then this message from one student saying all N-words must hang. With a follow-up message, what he said.
I just feel uncomfortable being there now because that's a threat. But I just don't want to go to that school anymore.
The messages screenshot and shared to other students and parents demanding something be done. Tyra not going to school for the last 2 days, fearing backlash from a student body where she says blacks are outnumbered.
She's supposed to go to school to learn, not be afraid to go to school because they're talking about hanging. That's a huge threat.
The district superintendent didn't return my calls for comment, but we found this statement on the school's website saying in part, the district was made aware of the group chat Monday evening. A full investigation began immediately the next morning and continued Wednesday. Students involved with the group chat and racist hate speech are receiving disciplinary measures in accordance with the Student Code of Conduct. These measures are confidential.
They need to be suspended. And they really need to be charged, I think.
So as you heard that clip, none of that should be surprising to you by now. When I told you that it is a culture, it is the culture that they teach, I was serious about that. I'm not saying that to sound fly. I'm not saying that to sound militant. I'm not saying that just to get y'all to repeat something. No, it is a culture, and you have to understand this. They teach this in their homes to their children. It don't matter if it's Texas, Louisiana, it don't matter if it's California, it don't matter. Listen, it's all over. Listen, Malcolm X said something because, at one point in time they were saying, only the hardcore white supremacists in the South. And Malcolm X said anything south of Canada is the South, meaning that this whole country has white supremacy in it. They teach their children when they can barely speak how to say this. Let me say something. You know how little children, if you are saying particular words around them, or sometimes you may be saying, curse words or whatever, and then a little child hear you saying it and then they start repeating it. Well, in their home, they're saying vile and ugly things about us as black people. When they're about 2 years old is when they start using the N-word. You understand? It's because that's what they hear in their homes about us. They teach their children by the age of 2, by being around them and hearing this, white supremacist language is when they get indoctrinated. When our little children is 2 years old, we're not walking around there teaching our children something like that against no group of people. No black person I know is doing that. Not even the most hardcore militant, black person is not even teaching their kids that. They're trying to educate their children, in what we know, trying to teach them their, ABCs, teach them how to write, teach them, it'd be great to teach them a foreign language, when they soak that in. But no, that's not what they're doing. I told you they pass down white supremacy like an inheritance. Okay. I was in Al's Farmer Wear earlier because I was, getting a tuxedo rental for my son. Because Friday going to be my anniversary, and me and my wife, we 10-year anniversary. So we having a, renewal ceremony. And one of the sisters that worked in there, actually, she listens to the show. She was the assistant manager. And she told me that one of them, she said the kid had to be, she said around 5, 6 years old, took a marker he had. And guess what he wrote down there? He didn't write nothing about Spider-Man, new Spider-Man movie. He didn't write his ABCs. He didn't write nothing that's, little kids may, scribble about, just try to color on something, whatever. No, the little kid being 5 to 6 years old wrote the N-word. And she said she was just, shocked. And I said, why are you shocked? I said, do you watch my content enough? I said, you shouldn't be shocked by this. I said, I teach y'all all the time that this is taught in the homes. And it's always an excuse for it because it's the culture. It's been their culture ever since they got to any degree of power. Now, I said this, and I'm going to continue to say this. Our children in public schools are suffering from, physical abuse. They're suffering from definitely racial abuse, mental, abuse. And this concept keep happening. This is why our children, go through a lot of low self-esteem, is because of that. See, the other counterparts in the school is not dealing with that. Even other groups, they're not dealing with every little thing about them is wrong. They're not dealing with that. They may deal with some discrimination here and there, but not every little thing about them is picked apart. Understand? Like it is for black children. And when your black children are growing up, and their self-esteem and what they think about themselves, you can't have them in any kind of area where those children are being abused. I'm a big, proponent of saving our children from that public school system because they're not being protected. Understand? Their culture, listen what they were saying. They were talking about hanging black folks. Now, this is the young ones. This is not the ones that's 70 and 80. In other words, when people will say, oh, well, when the young ones come up, America gonna change. No, it's not. They teach them, once again, by the time they speak, they will learn to say the N-word. I've done videos where little 3-4-year-old ones walk up to a black person to say that because they were taught that. Y'all got to get that in your head. If you were in daycare, you're a teacher, if you were some sort of teacher in school with little kids, some of them will even say it. And it's not that they really know what they're saying to a point. They know when to say it because they were taught that. And they know who to say it to because they were taught that in their homes. I've said many times before that if you're teaching a child something like that, I view that as child abuse and you should not have that child. I just firmly believe that. Now, let's get to the other part of what I wanted to talk about in relation to mom here. Now, mom, for some reason, if you listen to this podcast, mom, you have a problem. The school is a problem, but you have a problem. So when we hear about these stories, we need to start looking at these towns and the demographics of these towns. It don't take but a quick Google search to break down the demographics of a town. So when I did the research of East Bernard, Texas, I never even heard of the place, and I live here in Texas. They say it's out of Wharton County. The demographics are 93.59% Mzungu, other race 5.05%, and the one that's very important here we need to talk about, Black or African American, 1.36%. I told y'all many times before, You cannot stay in a town where the population of black people is only 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, single digits. No, that is not a good look for you at all. I told you, preferably, if you can, stay in a town or thrive in town that's at least 50% us or close to it. Even if it's 25%, 30% us, even better. You know, I'm talking about on the lowest end, if we can get there. But don't be in places where you're so outnumbered. And you listen to the young sister. She said they're outnumbered, which they are if you look at the demographics of the town. So, Mom, if you're listening to this video, what I would tell you is take your baby out of East Bernard, Texas. Take your baby to here to Houston, or take your baby to Dallas, if you would like. But get your baby out of East Bernard, Texas. Listen, as parents, we have to take care of our children. And until you get out of that town, enroll your daughter into K-12. You can enroll her in K-12 and she can continue her schoolwork. Okay. If you don't have a black private school to take them to, put them in K-12. It's a good program, you know, and a lot of black children are actually in K-12 because I've seen the kids in the classes. But we have to be responsible enough to take care of our children. It is not safe when you have white supremacists running around talking about hanging black people. Because let me tell you something else. If it's not that, then they're going to go over there, you know, doing another shooting at the schools. Do you want your child to be in that situation? And we know, based on research and statistics, the majority of the shooters in schools are mzungu. So right there, you know, your child is in danger on top of all the racism. And they always say, oh, we think about inclusion of people and X, Y, Z. Listen, I don't want to be included in something like that. I don't want to be around people like that. I'm not saying every person's that way, not saying it. But what I told you guys and ladies many, many years is that when you see a big majority of them, I promise you, they get very bold with the white supremacy and they know you have no backup. Oh, hell no. So I would definitely tell Mom, the first thing you do is pull your daughter out of that school, withdraw her, put her in K-12. The second thing I would tell you is to move out of that town, come to Houston, you know, go to, you know, Dallas or something like that. That's the two places I would recommend for you because they got a, you know, significant amount of black community, right? Because, you know, if you don't want to move out the state, but that's what I suggest. Matter of fact, when I looked at the map, East Bernard is actually only 54 minutes from Houston. And, you know, I tell people all the time, if you don't want to stay in Houston, that's fine. Go to Sugar Land, Missouri City. You know, there's a lot of black people definitely in Missouri City. You know, you can be in Pearland. We're there too. You know, you can stay in Webster, you know, if you want to be in League City, if you want to be, you know, wherever you want to be, right? If you want to be in the surrounding areas, but you can move, sister, you can move and get your baby out of that area. But that's not good. That baby's life has been threatened and you as a parent got to act right now. Listen, it's one thing to talk about, you know, racism and white supremacy. Yes, but we cannot allow our children to be sitting ducks, you know, waiting for something to happen. OK, let me tell you something. I believe in fighting. But one thing about any military, a military is not going to fight a battle with 2 or 3 soldiers. And they have 10,000 opponents. It's a time to fight. It's a time to retreat. And then when you retreat, you regroup. If you're going to fight for something, fight where you have numbers. That's where the fight is at. We cannot, as black people, strategically, especially in this time period, be in towns where we're so outnumbered and that we don't have no way to fight back because we don't have the numbers, because the numbers game is extremely important in anything that you're doing, whether you own a company, whether you have a sports team, whatever you may be. Military numbers are very, very important. Why do you think America's military? Why they always trying to recruit? Because the more soldiers you have, the better. You don't want to have limited amount of soldiers because that's just not going to work. So, sister, once again, come to Houston or one of these cities surrounding Houston. Like I said, you even closer to Missouri City where I'm looking at on the map. So go to Missouri City. Your baby would be okay in the schools in Missouri City. There's a lot of successful black people in Missouri City. That's number one. Until you get out of there, get your baby in K-12. But this is what you got to do, because as parents, if something happened to that baby, that's how mama's fault at that point. You already got the warning. Now you've been on TV. So no, make a move now is what I would say. Make a move now. Because just even me, I'm tired of watching us just take. No, we need to respond when we get the message about our children is in trouble. Understand? And they're always going to fall back on us as the parents, because people can rally around you all day, but it's on you to move for your children. But if it's your first time coming to our podcast, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for visiting our podcast today. We greatly appreciate you coming by. Make sure to subscribe if it's your first time coming here. And if you enjoy the show, we'll definitely take a love offering, to help us keep the lights on and pay our wonderful people that helps us put on this show. And thank you once again for coming by and listening, and see you next time.